Hello everyone. In this lecture, we are going to see the different types of loads or load torques that we are going to encounter when using an electrical drive. So these types are basically can be classified into two categories. One is active or potential loads and the other one is passive loads, right? So coming to active or potential load, what is it? So this active or potential load is mainly due to the force of gravity, tension or compression in a spring or elastic body. So whenever this type of load exists, then such load is called an active load. So this same load can be called as potential load, because if you see here, the example I have taken as hoists or lifts or elevators or locomotives, etc. Suppose I am taking about lift, right? So when a lift moves up, let me tell you, or some object I want to lift, right? For suppose I am taking a crane, I want to lift some object. When the object is moving from the ground to a certain height, we can tell that it is carrying the potential energy, right? Now the potential energy is directed upwards, but the force or the torque will be always directed towards the opposite direction. That means it is always trying to push that object downwards or not. At the same time, when now that object, if it moves down or if we try to take it to the ground, then also the torque is always directed to the ground. That means if you see in both the cases, there is a difference in potential energy, but the torque whichever is existing, it is acting only in one direction. So that we can conclude that active torque act only in one direction, like hoists, lifts, elevators and locomotives, etc. So this is about the active or potential loads. Hope you have understood why we are calling it as a potential load. Why? Because when you do some amount of work, this type of loads involve the difference in potential energy, right? So now coming to passive loads or passive torques, let us see how it generates, right? So if the load or if the torque is due to friction or cutting and deformation of an inelastic body, then such type of load is called a passive load, right? So this type of torque always opposes the motion of the drive and change its sign when the direction of rotation of the drive is changed. So here the potential energy is not involving. This torque will be always opposite to the direction of the load, whatever it is, right? So if it moves in the forward direction, the torque will be in the opposite direction. If it moves in the backward direction, then the torque acts in the opposite direction. So passive load torque will be always opposite to the direction of rotation or direction of movement of the load, right? So main point to be noted here is passive torque acts in both the direction. It takes both positive and negative, but active load or active torque acts only in one direction irrespective of the direction of the load, right? This is about the active and passive loads. So this is about how the loads are. Now coming to the most common type of loads that we encounter with a electrical drive is a mechanical load. So coming to this mechanical load, what is the nature of the mechanical loads that we generally encounter while using electrical drives? Let us see. So it is mainly categorized based upon the difference in speed of the mechanical load or variation with the time, how it is varied with respect to time, how can we classify it? So let us see one by one. So depending upon the variation with the speed of a mechanical load, so these many categories are there. That is, the load may be a constant load torque, right? So it can have load torque with respect to speed. When you see, if the load torque increases, the speed also increases. The load may be of such kind, or the load may be such that its speed may vary. The load torque may be proportional to the square of the speed. Also, the load may be such that the load torque may be inversely proportional to the speed. So these are the characteristics of load torque versus speed of these 4 categories, right? Coming to variation with the time, if you see, the loads may be such that we need continuous and constant load operation drive, or continuous but load may be varying, right? Also, the load may be pulsating load, or impact loads, or short time intermittent loads, right? The loads may be existing for short time. So depending upon the type of load, depending upon the type of work which we need to satisfy, we need to select an electrical drive. So in the coming lectures, let us see how the selection of electric motor drive, on what factors it is done. So hope you have understood till now. Thank you.